Welcome back to another episode of the Unheard Perspective podcast. We're your hosts, Sasha Riva
and Basil Saidi.
And today our hearts are heavy as we discuss a recent and tragic attack near the Syrian-Jordan border. This past week, an unmanned aerial drone attack took the lives of 3 U.S. service members and wounded 25 others. The attackers are assumed as radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq. Conflicts shaking the foundations of peace in the region, especially with the current Israel-Palestine conflict.
Absolutely, it's an unjust attack, and our hearts go out to the families and friends of the fallen service members, as well as all Americans who share in this grief. The details are still coming out, but the Biden administration thinks it was carried out by Iranian-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq. According to the U.S. Central Command, the attack happened on January 27. It happened and marked an escalation, as it was the first time U.S. troops have been killed by enemy fire in the Middle East since the Israel-Hamas war began, and the incident took place near the Syrian border at a base known as Tower 22.
It is a fight that will not cease. The big question is, who is behind this attack? President Biden, in his response, pointed fingers at radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq.
In the middle of the tragedy, there's some confusion about the location of the attack. U.S. officials have said it happened in northeast Jordan, but you have the Jordanian government. They claim that it happened outside the kingdom. It happened across the border in Syria. And conflicting information, it all adds up to the already distressing situation and how it is complex at the moment, and that there is not really a unified source of news that can confirm where it actually happened.
There is a whole discussion happening all over the world. The aftermath of this accident has triggered political reactions, with some criticizing the Biden administration's inaction and others calling for a reset of the U.S. Middle East policy.
People have also been criticizing the Biden administration's inaction when it comes to the southern border, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Let's shift our focus to actually what was happening in Yemen and how the Houthis have been attacking U.S. maritime ships. We have the defensive action taken by U.S. military forces, collaborated with the U.K. and some support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada, and even the Netherlands. The strikes happened against the Houthi rebels because they have attacked maritime vessels in the Red Sea, and the attacks endangered many U.S. personnel. These attacks, however, were in response to the Israeli attacks in Gaza and Palestine, and they were also in response to the U.S. involvement in the Israel-Palestine war.
These attacks, including the use of anti-ship ballistic missiles, have endangered not only U.S. personnel, but also civilian mariners and partners. The toll on the trade and the threat to freedom of navigation have been severe, impacting more than 50 nations in 27 attacks on international commercial shipping.
We had the response of the international community, and it has been really united, maybe resolute, with some diplomatic efforts, especially in Operation Prosperity Guardian, which is a coalition to defend international shipping, as well as deter Houthi attacks.
The United Nations Security Council passed a resolution demanding an end to Houthi attacks on merchant and commercial vessels. It is a significant diplomatic development in response to the escalating attacks against the commercial vessels.
That resolution may be, but I don't believe it will stop. I even just saw a video of Houthis preparing their people to fight, and even their military, paramilitary groups, and they were launching rockets and bazookas, just basically how North Korea does their show-offs. And then we have two different scenarios here. Both involve the loss and the need for international response, which we had by the UN and many US allies. Both had Iran in the back door. They supported Hamas against Israel, and the US's involvement led to the Houthi attacks and retaliation. Now, however, we have attacks on the Syrian-Jordan border, and that targeted the U.S. personnel and other civilians. But right now, it seems that the current goals and foreign policies in the Middle East are not working. They are presenting difficulties for the U.S. at the moment. And actually, I believe that we need new foreign policies. They need to be put in place to lessen conflict, promote peace, because we really want to avoid another Iraq or Afghanistan situation. No one wants it, especially as we had former President Trump who would claim that he would be able to prevent a situation like that. And looking at the 2024 election, I think a lot of people are looking forward to that with the current Biden administration response.
We have to recognize the obligation we bear to the families of these heroes. We can ensure that the sacrifices made by these heroes and their families contribute to a safer and more secure future to America and the whole world. Their commitment to fighting terrorism will remain, and we will continue discussions surrounding such incidents.
You have the fighting power to fight such incidents. We just need proper administration, proper policies that can actually navigate and send the troops or the military in the right direction, fight these conflicts. Well, I would also like to say thank you for joining us on this special episode of the Unheard Perspective. We talked about the two incidents that just occurred and how the US's Middle East policy has been failing so far. However, our hearts go out to all those affected by the tragic events that just happened in the Middle East.
We will continue sending our prayers to American military people who are fighting overseas for the peace, who are fighting for America and our values. So if you have thoughts or perspectives to share, feel free to connect with us on social media. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and let's continue seeking the unheard perspectives that shape our world. Thank you for listening.